Sometimes, instead of welding metal together, you want to cut it apart. And a great way to do this is with a plasma cutter. Now this is the Disston CUT-40D air plasma cutter available from builders. So what is plasma? Plasma is the fourth state of matter after a solid, liquid, and gas. How do we get to this fourth state? With an extreme increase in temperature. We need to get the electricity hot enough to separate the neutrons and the electrons. We're melting metal. Folks, I cannot stress the importance here of PPE, and this includes a pair of shade fire safety glasses, a pair of leather gloves and a leather apron, as well as the appropriate footwear and fire retardant clothing. Shorts and slops ain't gonna cut it. Now, a welding helmet is too dark to see what you're cutting, as the arc is not as bright as welding. Lastly, make sure your work area is clear of flammable materials and liquids. Now the cutter consists of the inverter or power source, a negative grounding clamp and cable, an air regulator with a water trap, and the cutting torch itself. You also need an external air compressor that can provide a sustained pressure of 4.8 to 5.5 bar. Now compressed air is forced through the cutting torch and accelerated into a narrow swirling jet. Add a high amperage of electricity to this, and you have a cutting torch that can cut anything which conducts electricity, such as steel, aluminium, copper, as well as stainless steel. Now the cutting torch consists of the handle itself with a safety guard over the trigger, an electrode, a ceramic swirl ring, and the nozzle, and these are all held in place by the shield cap. The electrode and nozzle, as well as the swirl ring, are the only wearing parts and do need to be replaced in time. Now these are a common size and are widely available. Now assembling the plasma cutter is simple. The earth connector, torch connector, and the on-off control all attached to the front. And on the back we have the master power switch and the air regulator. This is where your air compressor line attaches to. Now I've purposely left the earth connector off for now. We can switch the inverter on and set the airflow by adjusting the air regulator. Remember, we need between 4.8 and 5.5 bar. Now as I put my finger under the trigger guard and squeeze the trigger, I can hear and feel the air flowing out. And the post gas dial lets me select how long after I release the trigger that the air continues to flow. This is to cool and clear the nozzle of any debris. My recommendation, set it to maximum. So I've pulled out a few pieces of scrap metal to demonstrate how easily this plasma cutter works. An off-cut sheet of 3mm mild steel, a 3mm sheet of aluminium, and a few pieces of various flat bar and angle iron in varying thicknesses. So I've clamped my piece of steel to the workbench and I've attached the grounding cable to the inverter. Then to complete the electrical circuit, I need to attach the grounding clamp onto bare metal and then hold the torch just above the surface I want to cut and press the trigger. Now I do find if there is no plasma flowing, just gently rest the nozzle on the workpiece and suddenly it'll re-spark and start cutting again. Now if you find that the sparks start running horizontally or bouncing towards you, it means you're cutting too fast. The jet's not going all the way through. Just slow down. Now this plasma cutter can be adjusted from 5 up to 40 amps, with thicker steel requiring a higher amperage. 40 amps will cut a maximum of 10 millimeters of steel. Now for this steel, 20 to 25 amps is enough, and we can turn that right down to about 10 amps when cutting aluminium, as it is much softer. Also just be aware of the duty cycle. This is a percentage of a 10-minute window. In this case, the duty cycle is 60%, so 6 minutes of cutting and a 4-minute break. Exceeding this will cause the thermal overload to kick in, and extended use can damage the cutter. Now a plasma cutter allows us to cut straight lines, and for this I'm using a guide to help me with this. We can cut shapes and tight angles, as well as cutouts in the middle of a sheet. Left to right, right to left, it doesn't matter. The most difficult part is holding the torch perfectly steady, and I find that having my hand over the top of the torch gives me better control. There's absolutely no resistance or feel when I'm cutting. It's a peculiar feeling, and it does take some practice. But once you get the feel for it, it's almost fun. Now all in all, a compact and easy to use plasma cutter that's a welcome addition to those in the metalwork industry and hobbyists. Now this Disston plasma cutter is available at Builders, both in-store and online at builders.co.za. For more videos like this, check out the blog on the website. Get to Builders, get it done.